2 billion active users per month. Like, your audience is on there. Doesn't matter who they are, they're on YouTube. It's just a matter of, can you get in front of those people?
Hey guys, welcome back to another interview. Nathan Chan here, CEO of Foundr. Make sure you give us a thumbs up for this video. If you want to know how to master YouTube ads in 2021 or beyond, we've got the YouTube ads GOAT. He spent over $30 million on YouTube ads. He's been using this platform pretty much since inception, since 2012. So if you want to know how to diversify your Facebook ad spend, you're getting killed on Facebook ads now, this guy is the best in the business. You have to watch this interview. All right, Tommie, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today. The first question I ask everyone that comes on is, how did you get your job?
Man, 2007, I was trying to find a way to provide for my family, and I always knew the internet was a way, and I didn't get any success until I started doing Google ads and affiliate marketing. That's really what allowed me to have my first success, online, buying ads and everything like that. 2009, 2010, Google shut my account down. That was about 95% of my income at the time. So it's pretty devastating. And so a buddy of mine was like, I got these guys that want you to run their ads for them. And I'm like, why would I run their ads, And, long story short, he was like, they pay you. It's like an agency thing. That's how I got in the agency game. I need to make some money. And so I kind of was good at this traffic thing and the numbers and everything. And I was able to, these guys was like, we'll pay you to do hours. And I learned this agency game then. And I kind of been off and on as an agency / media buyer / consultant ever since.
Yeah, wow. So since 2009, you started your agency. Gotcha. And tell me about kind of how did you get started around, I guess, getting online? Like what were you doing before that?
99 to 2007, I was in management, and that was really my career. I worked at Walmart for quite a few years. I actually joined their management training program. And then I had a bunch of other management jobs. And then I ended up working at this company called Cash America. They own the most number of pawn shops of any company in the world. It ended up being a really life-changing scenario for me. I learned a lot in that business about myself. One thing I did do in that pawn shop was eBay. They were not aware of eBay, and I was aware of eBay, and I ended up having this idea. I bought a camcorder. Back then, camcorders were the rage. I bought it for $20, but the problem with it was the door was jammed, so you couldn't put a new tape in or get it out, right? I sold it on eBay for $88. I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I just started doing a bunch of stuff with eBay. At one point, I think I was making about $5 or $6 grand a month on eBay. But when I left that company, that was my product. Like, that's how I got my product. And because I knew all of these managers at other stores and things like that, when I left that job, there went my supply chain, basically, right? But that was another indication for me that the internet was like, all right, I know I can make money on this internet. So fast forward, like I said, 2007, I'm not just, there's several instances where I knew the internet was the way, and I'm just gonna go hardcore with this internet thing. And I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna figure it out one way or the other. I'm gonna make it work. And here we are.
Yeah, wow, crazy, man. Thanks so much for sharing. So you said that in 2009, you started your agency, you started buying traffic, you were running Google ads. Now you really specialize in YouTube ads. Why do you think YouTube ads are so powerful?
If you really look at TV and the way it changed, the global culture globally, right? Because you got to understand, like, you and I on the other side of the world from each other right now. But even prior to the internet, I knew what was going on your side of the world, and you knew what was going on my side of the world. Why? Because of TV. Prior to TV, you had radio, but you didn't have the visual, right? So it's the same idea. You're just putting TV in a digital format, and it's accessible on multiple devices is really what video. created, it basically took TV and expanded on that. And that's why, you know, it's so powerful. I mean, average people walking around with 3 or 4 connected devices on them. So it's just allowed us to connect with people on all of those devices in your car, on your arm, you know, glasses, phones, you know, tablets, everything. And, you know, you can hit someone with audio, video, the whole thing with, you know, and it's just YouTube. It gives you that capability, unlike anything else that really is out right now.
Yeah, I see. So I guess you've had a lot of experience running YouTube ads. You know, you've been doing it for over a decade now. So you're one of the OGs. Can you tell us some of the examples or some of the results or some of the crazy things you've done with YouTube ads for some of your clients?
This guy, Kevin Kurganski, the breakup doctor, he was kind of the first person that gave me the freedom to kind of do whatever I wanted. And so I had this idea that at the time he was running this VSL. It was like an hour and 10 minutes. So my idea was, let's upload it to YouTube. Let's buy the little recommended ads over the recommended videos, point that to that video on YouTube, because the psychology of them being on the YouTube platform would bring their guard down. And at that time, YouTube had something called external link annotations, with you connect your website to your YouTube channel, and you can embed a clickable link right inside the video at any point, and it can live as long as it wanted. And that was my idea. And I just thought, man, this could be so amazing. And this guy was like, if you say, I don't know, but whatever you say. And, you know, we basically probably within 6 months took him from $5,000 a month to a 7-figure business run rate in a really short amount of time. So naturally, I was already working with other clients who wasn't giving me the freedom, but that allowed me to go to these other people and say, this is what I'm doing for this client. I want to do this for you. And now, instead of them holding me down, they was really more, because I had results to show them, give me the opportunity. And so I ran that play like 3 or 4 times back to back. It just was going crazy. So Kevin, you know, really, you know, was the catalyst for that. Matter of fact, I ended up working with this company, Organifi, and we ran that same play initially with their YouTube ads. And once again, it hit. It just out of the gate, it just, and that company, you know, I was able to help them with YouTube really catapult that brand up. And so I ran that play, God, man, I don't even remember how many times with clients, maybe about 7, 8 times. I taught a lot of people that strategy. That was really the kind of the primary thing that I was teaching when I first started teaching YouTube ads, was this strategy. So a lot of other people made a lot of money. I haven't tracked everyone, but I also had clients that I taught and not necessarily ran it for them, that I coached them or consulted for, that did that as well. But oh man, that was amazing. So that's, you know, probably a good of what kind of led to this whole OG, if you will, right? I was teaching this and no one was talking about it. And that really opened up a lot of doors for me. So fast forward, you know, 500 startups with VC firm. They ended up reaching out. I did a bunch of work with them. I worked with a lot of their startups. Fast forward, I decided to become an investor. And that didn't go that well. I realized my pockets wasn't deep enough for that. So fast forward 2019, the current agency that I'm running, probably really late 2019, we kind of pivoted purely to YouTube ads. But prior to that, we were doing a lot of stuff, Facebook ads, building funnels, we was doing it all. But we were just seeing these opportunities with YouTube, you know, kind of continue to pop up. And so we just kind of, you know, switched gears to that. One of our clients who was doing lead gen, we basically was able to take them on YouTube, really just blow that up $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a day from scratch. Another one of my clients, Robbie Blanchard, we helped Robbie basically go to, you know, 8 figures. These are current things, right? So there's a lot of other things in there that I can't remember, but that'll give you, some ideas from kind of the beginning, kind of up to now, if you will.
Yeah, love it. And yeah, like you can use YouTube ads for not just lead gen, info products, but also e-commerce, service-based business, SaaS. You've done it all, right?
For sure. Or I've coached or consulted. I'm very selective about who we actually run the ads, the full done for you. But I've done quite a bit with companies who, want to run their own, and they just need the right game plan, the right blueprint, the right playbook, if you will. So I kind of help them put that together. And now I've had every part of the spectrum you can think about.
Fascinating. So let's go a little bit deeper on YouTube ads. We talked to some of the smartest marketers, fastest growing companies, founders, and a lot of people are saying, that YouTube ads is kind of like, still early days, comparative like early days Facebook ads or, AdWords, Google ads, like buying traffic there. And I'd love to get your take.
I mean, I think a lot of people assume that it's hard. They also assume that, because you need video, that they overthink, creative, because, that is a unique factor about YouTube, is that you only can run video. So anybody that knows, any of the smartest guys that are really doing numbers, buying ads, blowing their business up, whatever level of the spectrum that they're on, but they're really understand paid advertising, a lot of times the video is intimidating because I think people overthink what they need for that. And the reality is it's a lot simpler than a lot of people. So for that reason, I feel like a lot of companies are not taking advantage of it. Then you kind of got small to medium-sized businesses, and I would say, honestly, up to $50 million a year revenue. You got this huge bucket of companies that are just, they don't have the resources, or they don't think that they have the resources, or there aren't agencies that are offering, creative services along with the advertising to kind of close that gap, because maybe they don't have the capability to produce, but maybe they don't want to bite it off. But it's really not as hard as they think. But I get it. It's like another thing I got to keep up with, right? I'm a business owner. I already got a gazillion things and a million hats that I'm wearing. That's another thing that I don't know if I'm ready for that, right? So I understand the thinking, but it's just, I just feel like people aren't really taking advantage of it yet, because they telling themselves so many reasons why they aren't ready. And that's why I think it is still kind of early days, because, the number of advertisers on YouTube, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd imagine Facebook probably got 3 to 4 times the advertisers than YouTube. And I would imagine, this is me, I don't have any data to prove this, is just my opinion. I think probably only 30% of people with a Google Ads account that are running ads on Google are actually running YouTube ads. I've had conversations with reps at Google who say, getting other advertisers to adopt YouTube is a challenge. It has been a struggle, but the company is putting a big focus on particularly getting advertisers already using Google services to adopt YouTube, and then getting other advertisers onto the platform that may not even be running YouTube. Maybe they're just running Google. So that's kind of where I'm getting. But this is my estimation. I think about a third of them aren't doing it. And then, I would say Facebook just got way more people advertising Facebook versus YouTube. Now, in terms of Google as a whole, there are a lot of advertisers on Google, but I would imagine that maybe a third of them are actually running YouTube ads. So that's kind of that's my opinion. Again, there's no facts to support that. That's just what I think.
That's really interesting, because when you think about it, everybody's running Facebook ads. Everybody, there's an aura like, Facebook ads can change the game. And then there's a lot of people from old days, early days, there, a lot of businesses running Google ads, using AdWords to run Google ads through search, right? So I'm curious, when it comes to YouTube ads, like what about your niche? Does it work for any niche? Yeah.
I've said this 1,000 times by now, but it's 2 billion active users per month. Like, your audience is on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't matter who they are, they're on YouTube. It's just a matter of, can you get in front of those people? And with all of the mechanism that they give you for targeting, you can absolutely isolate specifically who you want to reach. So they're on there. Doesn't matter what business you're in. If you got something to sell, there are people who are on YouTube that's buying whatever you selling.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that big. So yeah, but YouTube, like I use YouTube all the time. I'm always using it to learn things. I love searching on there. So look, I think there's a massive opportunity. That's why we're excited to speak with you. Also partner with you as well to teach one of our newest programs. But let's talk about like Facebook ads, versus YouTube ads, because, at Foundr, we spend a lot of money on Facebook ads. We haven't cracked YouTube ads yet. We're excited to really get into it ourselves. But I'm curious, can you just take your Facebook ads if you're running them right now? Because a lot of people watching this, like, can you just take them and then just run them on YouTube ads? Does that work?
I try not to say things don't work, because like everything could work if you got, the right pieces together. But I've seen it work, but it's just the probability is low. And typically the way I describe it is that when you're running Facebook ads, Instagram, whatever, you're getting, especially if you're running video, you also have the post area above the video that makes up your creative. So your creative is not just video, it's video plus whatever you're saying in your post area text combined together. So if you just are running video on Facebook and you just stick that on YouTube, you lose the context of the post area, right? That's where I think a lot of people get it wrong at. And that's why I think the probability is a lot lower, because you do gotta somewhat modify, but the message is the message. If you got a good message that's working on your Facebook ads, very likely is gonna work on YouTube if you get the same audience targeting. You just gotta modify it a tad bit to match the ecosystem in which you're trying to communicate. And with Facebook, you have image and text, or if you're running video, you got the video and post area text. That is your creative, and it's not just the video. So you have to keep in mind that you got to contextualize those both together to be able to deliver that same message effectively on YouTube.
I see. So I'm curious, is it enough to just run, if you're a business or you're just starting a business, you want to start running ads, is it enough to just run ads on Facebook, or do you believe you need to be diversifying? Because that's kind of what we're hearing in the community. That's what people are starting to say. I'd love to hear your take.
I do recommend diversification, but I also, look, we talk about YouTube. People know me for that. We're having this conversation, but I also like to level with people and be honest with them. If your business isn't making 6 figures yet, stick to one thing. Don't try to do, I see too many people, spreading themselves thin before they get any real traction. If you haven't gotten traction in your business, you should not be trying to do multiple things, because they are 2 different animals. That's just to be true. They're not wildly different from each other, but they are 2 different animals, and they take slightly different approaches. 70–80% of the stuff we do is the same thing we can do on Facebook, on YouTube, but there is a 20–30% of it that's gonna be slightly different for that platform. And so what happens is, when you're trying to get traction, you're spreading yourself out thin, when reality is you should put all your focus in, limit your focus, until you get to a point where, diversification. Typically I say, if your business is doing, I would say a couple of 6 figures, 200 or 300K a year, you're primarily doing that through your Facebook ads. you should probably start thinking about diversification because you're probably getting some traction now. You know, you don't make a couple $100,000 a year just playing around. Like typically you've hit on something to get to that level. So you're definitely on to something at that point. And you probably have something you can turn into, you know, a bigger business. So that's when the time really would be thinking about it. But on your way there, I would say pick one. You know, I know people that, you know, start with YouTube ads. You know, that's their thing. They love video. They already, you know, kind of into the content creation mode and shooting video. So, you know, you could also start with YouTube ads, but I wouldn't recommend trying to do too many things until you get a bit of traction.
Yeah, no, look, I respect that. I'm curious, could you tell, like, just for the audience that are not familiar, like, what do you think the key differences are between Facebook and YouTube ads?
I mentioned before that with Facebook, your creative message is a combination of, you know, the image and the text or the video and the text in your post. So that's a key distinction right there, that when you're delivering a message to your audience, because that's what your creative is, in order to deliver the same message effectively, you just have video. You don't have that other stuff, right? I think the other thing is that with YouTube, it's almost like an alley-oop, if you want to think about it, right? It's like the video is almost like the guy who's tossing the ball up, you know, if you will, right? Your video want to be almost like an alley-oop. You're baking a bit more into your messaging in order to pull that off, so that by the time they get to your landing page, you know, that's, you know, kind of where you bring it home. Now, obviously, if you have a high ticket, high price product, you're going to need multiple touch points. I mean, it's just what it is. But if you're talking, you know, $200 or less, I mean, you can do a lot of damage, you know, right from your message to your landing page. Now, once you get into $300, $400, $500,000, $2,000, $5,000, that type of stuff, I know guys selling $25,000 stuff. You know, you're gonna need multiple touch points, or you're gonna need to get them on a phone call close type situation. But typically, we're trying to bake a lot more into that messaging, and your landing pages are actually a lot simpler. Versus with Facebook, you see a lot of long form sales letters, and you know, you see a lot of, you know, that type of stuff. Whereas, you know, because you're trying to deliver a message to get them to convert. Well, we just take a lot of that and we bake it into our video creative. It's kind of the way we think about it. So I think that's a key distinction. And then I think the third key one would just be, you know, evaluating, isolating, you know, because it's a different behavior type. Someone's on Facebook, they're scrolling. So your focus is stop the scroll. Someone on YouTube, you know, 70% of searches on YouTube start with how to. So people are searching for information. So it's a different type of intent. So you got to evaluate them different. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, just to be honest, but you have to try to isolate them and separate them. If you're trying to compare apples to apples behavior from Facebook and YouTube, you're probably just looking at your data all wrong. So that's another key point, is just understanding the type of behavior from one versus the other, right? Even on Instagram, like they're scrolling, right? No one's logging on to Facebook. Well, maybe a few people are, but 98% of them, you know, you go to Facebook and you scroll the news feed. You go to Instagram, you scroll the news feed. But with YouTube, typically people are specifically looking for something when they go there. So that's a key distinction. And if you don't understand that, I think, you know, you'll get trapped up trying to compare these things head to head. In reality, your prospect, and you can have the same exact person, right? One of them on Facebook, they're scrolling. They ain't in the mass, they're in a different mentality. They go over to YouTube, they're in a whole nother mentality, same person. So you just got to understand that and play to that, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I was just thinking about that. It's like, yeah, if I'm on Facebook, I'm thinking about something else. I'm looking at what friends are doing. I want to catch up with family, all that kind of stuff. I'm reading perhaps articles or looking like what's happening in the world, in my world or my curated world. And when I'm on YouTube, I'm there to learn, I'm there to be entertained, like all these kinds of things. And yeah, the ad is more in your face. Facebook, you got messages popping, you got chat going, like you got all these other distractions. So you're just in a different mindset. Well, look, I'm sure people want to know more around like you've spent a lot of money on YouTube ads. How much have you spent? Like, what would you say?
I mean, I think it's about 30 million, probably 35, closer to 40 now. I think 30 million is probably a number that I came up with maybe like, I don't know, a year or two ago. Because we probably, my clients combined in the last 12 months and spent maybe about 20 million, but that's not just YouTube. That's a combination of things. And we don't manage all of that. But, clients that we work with, they do give us a level of access to a lot of the other things because we're trying to kind of build a cohesive, game plan, right? Which is another key point. You should be able, your Facebook and your YouTube, especially if you hire agencies, they should probably talk to one another. But yeah, I'd probably say it may be closer to 40 million now, but it's just kind of hard to keep. I'm terrible at tracking those things because I'm always thinking about what's ahead of me and not looking back. But conservatively, easy 30 million, probably closer to 40, maybe more than that. I don't know, but I just try not to overshoot, what it really is, because I really don't know. I haven't tracked it, dollar for dollar throughout. I just don't really. I'm always trying to what's the next level that I want to go to. So I'm not much of a that ain't really my thing, but people ask me that a lot. So
that's all good. I respect that. But it's safe to say you're spending like well over $1 million a month on YouTube ads, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
It's a lot of money. So where I'm going with this is obviously, everyone watching now, you've got some stuff to share around what have you learned from all of that? And I'd love for you to share around your C3 formula. Tell us more about that.
The C3 really is more of a overarching lesson that I learned just in this game. Ultimately, your creative, your campaigns and conversions are the three key elements. Really, it doesn't, matter where you buy ads. Actually, you're going to need the three of those things to be dialed in. It's what are you saying, who you saying it to, and what are you selling at the end of the day, right? So your creative is, what are you saying? So your campaigns is like, who do you want to say that to? That's where you create the targeting and all of the different things to get that message in front of the right people, right? And then conversions is when they see my ad and I get them to click on it and go to my website or my landing page, how do I get them to convert? Conversions, my funnel, my landing page, get them into my world, if you will. And so those are kind of the three buckets that we kind of break everything down in. And usually for us, we like to start with the end and work backwards. So it's first of all, it's like, what are you selling? Who do you want to sell it to? What do you need to say to them to get their attention to even be interested in, that? That's kind of how we work that system.
Yeah, fascinating. So let's break that down a little more. Let's talk about creative. So when it comes to creative for you, what makes a great YouTube ad from your perspective?
So the key three, hook, message, call to action, right? Hook, message, call to action. The hook is important because with YouTube, we're talking, the majority of the type of ads we run today. So remember back, a while back, we were talking about Kevin and the strategy of uploading the video. So back then we were running something called, I think they called them in display. Now it's called discovery. YouTube discovery ads is what the technical name is today, but back then it was called in display. And at that time we ran probably 80%, 70, 80% was that. Well, today we run in stream about 70 to 80%. That's basically you're watching a YouTube video, you're about to watch it, the ad pops up and you got to wait 5 seconds to skip, right? That's the predominant type of YouTube ad that we run today. And in order to be effective at that type of ad, that's what I talk about: hook, message, call to action. Because you got 5 seconds to hook them, to get them to care about whatever you're talking about. And then you have the message component is the from the hook to your call to action, like all of the things that you're gonna say within that time frame. And then obviously your call to action, what do you want them to do as a result? So with call to action, you got to be very specific, right? If you want someone to register for a webinar or, buy your product, if you know that you're going to send someone down a path of a series of questions, you're telling them that, So one of the examples in lead gen, we tell them, fill out this 1 minute form. Now we use 1 minute, so that's because it can be a minute if they go ahead and do it, but it's letting them know when they get there, they're not just gonna land on the page and whatever the case may be, right? So you're being more specific about the action that you want them to take. You have to really, communicate that. The hook is really more about, to me, a targeting strategy of what are your people, what mindset are they in? What kind of content are they consuming? Are they watching some channel or, are they consuming content about X, or what are their interests? So based on your targeting, your hook should be as relevant as you can to where they are already, so that you can connect with them based on where their mindset at. That's really what a really strong hook is going to do. Well, they really do two things. They also open loops, which is another strategy you probably heard of before, but open loops, I like to use open loops. And we like to segment our audience based on, where they may be at, so that we can try to create a hook that's relevant to where they are now, and then open a loop to keep them watching, right? Then that's when you kind of build the rest of the message out from there. And those are kind of the key main elements. I don't know if you want to go deeper on that, but those are kind of the key things that I wanted to point out.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, man. This is awesome. I'm curious, what do you mean by open loops? What are they? Like, how's that work?
So I tell you where I learned it. This guy named Andre Chaperon, he had a product called Autoresponder Madness. And in that product, he taught us how to use what he called soap opera sequences. So if you ever watched a soap opera, at the end, they show you some stuff. Reality TV do a lot of this now too. Where like at the end of the show, they show you the next show, but they just really wet your beak. You know what I mean? Because it's like, man, I got to watch the next show. Another thing that do this very well is movie trailers, right? So a movie trailer is designed to open a bunch of loops to make you want to get up and get in your car, drive to the movie theater, stand in line, pay money, go stand in the line again, get a bunch of popcorn and all of this stuff, then go sit down, wait 30 minutes because they're going to put a bunch of things in front of you, then play the movie. Imagine that, right? So movie trailers are very powerful in this type of thing. So I usually like to give examples, right? So I could try to explain it and probably wouldn't do it justice, but movie trailers, soap operas, different shows and stuff like that, like you'll see it all around you. It's everywhere.
Yeah, no, that was a great example. I love that, man. And look, we go through like all this stuff in way more depth in our masterclass that we do together. So there'll be more info about this wherever you're listening, watching. There's more info about this below. But okay, let's talk about metrics. So how much do people need to be spending per day? Like, how can someone leverage YouTube ads with, $100 compared to $1,000, $10,000? Like, yeah, talk to us about metrics.
Yeah, I mean, it's subjective, right? you know, every person is running their own race. And so I get caught up in that at times as well. And I have to remind myself, I'm running my own race. I can't try to compare myself to, but like you can start with $5 or $10 a day. You know, you just have to understand that you're going to learn slower that way. The more you spend, the faster you're going to learn. And that's really the mindset that I would like most. Well, I don't think I'm gonna ever get everyone to see it the way I see it, but like, if possible, the thing I try to get people to understand is the mindset of learning. The more you spend, the faster you learn, and the faster you get to success. But some people aren't, you know, they don't run as fast as other people, and that's okay. But just keep that in mind. So, you know, you can start with $5, $10 a day, $20 a day. You know, and then it kind of depends on what you're selling. So if you're selling something for $1,000 and you're spending $10 a day, it's going to take you a really long time to, you know, learn to get any amount of data. I mean, you know, that would take 100 days at $10 a day just to spend the price of what you're selling, right? It's, you know, but if you're selling a $50 widget, you know what I'm saying? You can start with 10 or $20 a day, and you could get some learnings pretty quick. You know, $100, $200, you'd have an idea of, you know, click-through rates. You know, what people, could I get a conversion? You know, because it's not about being profitable out of the gate. It's about learning, and then the faster you can learn. All we're doing ultimately is we learn as quickly as we can. We figure out what works, we figure out what don't, we stop doing what didn't, we keep doing what was, and we try to do more of that. And we just iterate through that process over and over again. So it's not, you know, I mean, you don't have to have a crazy large, but I mean, even our big budget clients, they don't come to us out of the gate and we spending $5,000 a day. It don't really work like that. Most of the time, we're starting out at a couple $100s a day. And then we build it till we can scale it up to $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a day. But that's not where we start.
Yeah, love it. Love that breakdown and this idea of learning, because I think sometimes people are just like, oh, I'll spend some money and I'm going to make all this money back. And like, yeah, it takes time, right? So let's talk about margins, unit economics, because I think that's really important as well. What kind of margins, what kind of ROAS or return on ad spend should you be aiming for with the YouTube play?
The way I see it is every successful business that I've ever seen has some things in common, but one of them is they get a customer and then they sell them more stuff. And I feel like a lot of times in our industry, everyone's trying to make money the first time they, you know, get a customer. And it's like, imagine meeting a girl for the first time and, you know, you want to immediately go from meeting to having a baby, being married, and the whole nine, like out the gate. Like, it don't work like that. You know what I mean? So I'm a big proponent of people understanding more about what they can pay to acquire a customer based on the fact that they know they're going to sell them more stuff, is what I like, you know, for people to look at. And in that, that's when you start getting into the margins. That's when you start looking at how much revenue am I going to make and what is it going to cost me to deliver on the promise that I made. So I want to be clear about that, right? Because when you're looking at traffic, your margin should be everything it took to deliver on the promise that you made. So if somebody bought $100 thing from you, what does it cost for me to put that in their hand if you're doing physical products, right? If you're doing a digital product, you got to look at, you know, what does it cost to put it in their hand? You know, how much my merchant fees are going to cost me? What's my typical refund chargeback rate? You know, what is my manufacturing cost if you're doing physical product? You have to take all of that stuff into consideration and get some idea of, if I collect $100, what's actually left? And then that's going to start dictating how much you should pay, right? But if you understand that you can sell more things to people, I think, you know, the mindset is different for what you can pay, what you think you can pay now versus what you really can pay. But the first step you do got to do is you got to look at how much money am I going to make when I sell this, right? Top line revenue. And how much is it going to cost me to deliver on my promise, right? So if it's a promise that I'm going to put something in the mail to you, or if a promise you're going to be able to log into this thing or download something or whatever it is, you have to think about all of the things that you got to do to deliver on that, because that's what your true margin is what's left over when it's all said and done. So that's really how I try to get people to think about the margin. And then from there, I can start walking you into, well, what can I actually pay? Because maybe I got $50 left out of this. Could I pay $50? Well, technically, then you'd break even, right? You'd collect 100, you spend 50 to deliver your promise. You spent 50 getting them. You didn't make anything. Well, I mean, did you? Or did you? Well, if you didn't make anything, can you sell them something else? Because now when you sell that customer something else in the future, you don't got to pay for that customer again. You already did that. So now you all profit, right? So it's just a mindset shift to have. But margin, true margin is what I call it, is everything that it takes to deliver the promise you made when you took somebody's money.
Yeah, no, man, that was gold. I love it because, yeah, there's levels to this, right?
Yes.
There's levels. And the companies like your Organifies, who you work with and you help them scale tremendously, you know, the reason that one of the reasons they're able to is because they could spend a lot of money. Like Ryan Dice always says that the person or the company that can spend the most wins to acquire a customer.
So true, man. I learned that lesson. Actually, a Russian guy taught me that lesson. 2012, we were spending about 70 grand a day. And I was spending 70 grand a day on Google Display. When I took over their account, they were spending about 5 grand a day. And they wanted to scale that. And I think the most at that time, maybe I spent like 12,000 in a day. But when they told me their CPA, I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to, because they was doing a $7.95 free trial and they were paying $100. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand how they doing that. You know, and that's how I learned the lesson of, you know, whoever can spend the most wins, because, you know, that's just what I was doing. Like these guys were probably spending 200 to 200K a day. But we scaled from 5 grand a day to 70,000 because of that. And I learned that lesson. That's the first time I'd ever had anything even remotely close to that. And it really blew my mind because I couldn't understand, how are you spending $100 in y'all? So then I understood funnels and upsells and rebuilds and all of these things that they were doing. And so when he basically ran the math, because I'm, you know, math, and it's like, this math doesn't make sense. You got to make this math work. I mean, you don't have to make it work. I'll just keep spending your money, but I'm just curious. And, you know, he started explaining to me what they were doing, but he still left some stuff out. So, you know, I went through the process myself, and that's what I learned, man. I got like a crazy lesson in that, because these guys had upsells and cross sales and rebuilds and all of these things. Then they were promoting affiliate offers as well. So their customer value was probably $400 or $500 maybe. And so they could pay $100 because they knew their numbers. And that's how I actually learned that lesson. So when I hear people say that, I always think about that situation, because it's like, it's so true. That's how I learned that lesson, working with somebody who was doing something like that. Yeah,
that's crazy, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, well, crazy.
Look, dude, we could talk about this all day. You know, we're really excited to work with you to create this incredible program on how to successfully run YouTube ads on the Foundr platform. But look, we'll work towards wrapping up. We've got a hot seat round. So we're going to ask you a few questions, 30 seconds.
Gotcha.
So the first question I have is, what's a brand that people should be studying right now that are producing amazing videos when it comes to YouTube ads?
Grammarly. That's easy.
What's one trait every single entrepreneur needs to be successful?
Resilience.
What's one thing you wish people knew about YouTube ads?
How powerful it is. I mean, I think it's the most powerful advertising medium on the planet, but obviously I'm biased. So
What excites you the most about the future of YouTube advertising?
more adoption, more, like the whole world isn't even connected to the internet. So just the fact that, there's 7 billion people on the planet and we still got a ways to go to get people connected globally so that they can be able to access it. That's exciting, super exciting.
Yeah, love it. If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would probably say Steve Jobs. I'd probably say Steve Jobs. I got so many Apple products in my house. How you get me to do that?
Why?
I got so many freaking Apple products in my house. Is like, how, like, what were you thinking? You know what I'm saying? To create this phenomenon of what we, it's just, I would want to know how he thought about product development and just getting people to adopt this product and be, so, loyal.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. If you think about I'd love to know the customer lifetime value of you and I for Apple.
I would probably ask something like that too. You know,
like it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It gotta be, bro.
Yeah,
like it gotta be.
Yeah, if you think of all that, team members, insane amount of equipment. Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, man, we'll wrap there. Thank you so much for your time. This was incredible. We only just scratched the surface with you. There's so much more, but we're so thankful to be working with you and for you to give back to our platform and to our community. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much. So much. I enjoyed it.
Hey guys, hope you're loving our videos and that you're getting heaps of value from them. If you are, make sure to hit the like button and make sure to subscribe to join the Foundr fam. If you did enjoy this video and want to continue to master your skills, make sure you click here to access your free training now, where we'll go into way more depth with this founder.